Oh, it's delicious, isn't it? The way you walked away without a tear, without a tear, without a backward glance, that confident stride of yours shattered. Their illusion, didn't it? You see, they thought they had you wrapped around, had you in their grasp, held in their grip like a puppet, dancing to their cruel little tune. They couldn't imagine that you'd walk away so boldly, so mercilessly, as if they meant nothing at all. And yet, here you are, standing tall, leaving them in their misery while you thrive in your newfound freedom. You took back what was yours, that power, that control, that piece of yourself they tried to steal. But they never saw it coming, did they? They never thought you would rise above, escape from their shadow, laugh in the face of their superiority. The thing is, they believed their own narrative, their own twisted version of reality. They thought they were invincible, untouchable, that you were just another pawn in their game. They thought you needed them, that without them, you'd fall apart, crumble into nothingness. They saw you as weak, fragile, easily manipulated. But what they failed to understand is that beneath that surface of politeness, beneath the layers of restraint, there was a storm waiting to break free. There was a strength you hadn't yet shown, a fire that burned in the depths of your soul, and when you finally let it out, when you finally stopped pretending, you became unstoppable. It's almost comical when you think about it, isn't it? How they believed they held all the cards, how they thought they had the upper hand because they controlled the situation, because they held power over you, because they knew your weaknesses. They thought they could break you with their words, with their manipulations, with their deceit. But they didn't realize something crucial. They didn't realize that every insult, every criticism, every attack, every attempt to diminish you was only making you stronger. Every blow they dealt only forged you into something unbreakable, something so fierce they couldn't even begin to comprehend. And when you finally walked away, when you left them behind without a second thought, it was like a slap in the face, a blow to their inflated egos. You didn't beg for their approval. You didn't chase after their affection. You didn't need their validation. You simply walked away, and in doing so, you left them with nothing but the shattered pieces of their own arrogance. The truth is, they never knew who you were. They thought they did, but they didn't. They saw the surface. They saw the parts you allowed them to see, and they mistook that for weakness, for vulnerability. They thought you were harmless, that you were easily controlled, that you could be pushed around and manipulated without consequence. But now, as they stand there, watching you walk away with your head held high, they're beginning to realize the truth. You were never weak, you were never vulnerable, you were simply playing the game, keeping your cards close to your chest, waiting for the moment when you would finally make your move. And now, as you leave, as you take back your life, your power, your dignity, they are left with nothing but the bitter taste of defeat. You see, the hardest thing for people like them to accept is that their control over you was never as real as they thought. They believed they could manipulate you, that they could twist you into whatever shape suited their needs, that you would be nothing without them. But you showed them that their grip was always tenuous, that you were never as dependent on them as they imagined. And when you walked away, when you cut those ties, when you erased them from your life without a second glance, it was a blow to their ego that they will never fully recover from. You didn't need them, you never needed them, and now they have to face the painful reality that they were never as important as they thought. This is the moment they will never forget, the moment when their illusion shattered and they were forced to confront the truth about themselves, the truth that they were never as powerful as they believed, the truth that they were never as in control as they wanted to be, the truth that they were nothing without you, that their existence was defined by your presence, and now that you've left, they have nothing left to hold on to. They can try to salvage their pride, They can try to save face, but deep down they know. They know that you walked away without a single care, without a single glance back, and that is something they will never be able to undo. And as they try to piece together their shattered egos, as they struggle to regain their footing, you'll be out there, living your life, thriving without them, growing stronger every day. They'll watch from the sidelines, helpless, unable to do anything to stop your rise, and in their desperation, they may try to lure you back, try to pull you into their web once more, but you will never return. You will never go back to the place where they tried to break you, where they tried to diminish your worth. You will never again bow to their demands, never again submit to their manipulation. You've seen the truth, and once you've seen the truth, there's no going back. They thought they could break you, thought they could control you, thought they could keep you in your place, but you proved them wrong. You showed them that you are stronger than they could ever imagine, that you are capable of so much more than they ever believed. And now, as you stand tall, as you walk away with your head held high, you know that you've won. You've taken back your life, taken back your power, and there's nothing they can do to stop you. They can try to destroy your reputation. They can try to turn others against you, but they will never be able to erase the truth. The truth that you walked away from them without a second thought, that you shattered their egos with nothing more than your confidence, that you took control of your own destiny and left them in the dust. There is nothing more powerful than that, nothing more liberating, nothing more fulfilling, nothing more victorious than the moment when you realize that you don't need anyone to define you, that you don't need anyone to validate your worth, that you are enough on your own. And as they sit there, wallowing in their own shame, trying to understand how they lost their grip on you, you will continue to rise. You will continue to grow, to evolve, to become everything they never thought you could be. They may try to take credit for your success. They may try to convince themselves that they were the ones who made you. But deep down, they know the truth. They know that you were always capable of this, that you always had the strength to break free from their control, and that their power over you was never as solid as they wanted to believe. So go ahead, walk away with that same confident stride, that same look of determination in your eyes, knowing that you have won. You have crushed their egos, shattered their illusions, and taken control of your own life. And as you leave them behind, they will never forget the moment when you walked away without a second thought, when you proved to them that you were never as weak as they imagined, that you were always stronger than they ever believed. Oh, how the truth stings when it hits them. They couldn't fathom it, not for a single moment. They thought that their words, their actions, their manipulations could shape you, could break you, could carve you into something you weren't. But you were always more than what they saw. They couldn't see past their own assumptions, their own limited perception. And now they're left grappling with the shattered remnants of their false belief that they could ever hold dominion over you. They thought they could break you by using your vulnerabilities against you. They thought you were fragile enough, sensitive enough, to buckle beneath their constant barrage. But they were wrong, and it's so sweet, isn't it? The way they believed you were their plaything, their canvas, to shape with their manipulative strokes. But you became your own masterpiece, far more beautiful, far more resilient, far more untouchable than they ever imagined. It must be maddening for them, the realization that they never had the power they thought they wielded, the realization that their most powerful weapon, their belief that you needed them, is now their greatest weakness. You see, they underestimated you at every turn, thinking their temporary power over you would last forever. They thought they could control your every move, bend you to their will, make you conform to their desires. But what they never understood was that your strength was not something they could mold. that your independence was not something they could crush with a few calculated words or actions. What they couldn't fathom was that you had the power all along. The power to walk away. The power to leave them in the dust without a backward glance. That is the power they failed to recognize. They didn't understand that your silence, your calm, your measured restraint was not weakness. It was the calm before the storm. It was your refusal to let them control your emotions. It was your patience in letting them build their own illusion of victory before you shattered it in one effortless movement. And now they stand there, in disbelief, as you take that power back from them. They expected you to beg, to plead, to grovel for their approval or affection. They expected you to return to them, to crawl back to the same toxic cycle they tried to trap you in. But instead, you walked away. You stood tall, your back straight, your gaze forward, as if you were leaving behind nothing more than a brief inconvenience. In that moment, they realized, with a gut-wrenching certainty, that you were never dependent on them. You never needed them. The power was always in your hands. They just never saw it until it was too late. Imagine their surprise when they realized that you had already moved on, already let go, already claimed your freedom without a single hesitation. It must sting. It must gnaw at their insides to know that their hold on you was an illusion, a lie they told themselves to feel important. They could never see the depth of your resilience, the strength of your character, because they were too blinded by their own egos, their own inflated sense of self. They were so wrapped up in their own world, their own desires, that they never bothered to notice you standing there, quietly plotting your escape. They tried to destroy you, to diminish you, to make you believe that you were nothing without them. They tried to make you feel small, insignificant, powerless. But what they didn't know was that you had already been preparing for this moment long before they even realized it was coming. You had already planned your departure. You had already cultivated the inner strength that they couldn't touch, couldn't break, couldn't destroy. And when the time came, you didn't even have to fight. You didn't have to beg. You simply walked away, leaving them with nothing but the wreckage of their own assumptions. They never saw it coming. They never saw how strong you were until they were faced with your absence. They couldn't comprehend that you were not their puppet, not their tool to use at will. And now they're left scrambling to understand, to reconcile the image they had of you with the reality that they've been forced to face. How could they have been so wrong? How could they have failed to see the strength that was right in front of them? How could they have misjudged you so completely? The answer is simple. They couldn't imagine you would ever walk away. They couldn't fathom that you would have the strength to break free from their grasp. And now, as they sit in the ruins of their own making, they have no choice but to accept the truth that you were always stronger than they ever gave you credit for. You see, they built their lives on control. They built their sense of self on the idea that they could dominate others, that they could make people bend to their will, that they could carve their own narrative by manipulating the people around them. But they never counted on you. They never counted on your strength, your resilience, your ability to rise above their petty games. They thought they could control you, but in the end, it was you who held the power all along. And now, you stand in the aftermath of their defeat, not gloating, not rubbing it in, but simply existing. Your existence, your confidence, your refusal to be moved is the greatest victory. It's a quiet triumph, a moment where the truth becomes undeniable to them, no matter how hard they try to deny it. They can try to rewrite the story. They can try to tell themselves that it was their choice, that they were the ones who let go. But deep down, they know the truth. They know that you walked away on your own terms. You were never their pawn. never their plaything. You were always your own person, and now they have to come to terms with that fact. And so they stew in their failure. They try to tell themselves that they didn't care, that they never needed you, that it doesn't bother them. But the truth is, it's eating them alive. It's eating away at the core of their self-image, the carefully constructed facade that made them feel invincible. They are not invincible. They are fragile, they are weak, and they were too proud to ever see it. They were so busy playing games with you that they forgot one crucial thing. They were never the ones in control. So let them stew in their shame. Let them try to rebuild the ego you crushed with nothing but your determination to walk away. Let them fight with themselves, try to salvage what's left of their pride, because it's all in vain. They can never undo what you've done. They can never reverse the truth that you have taken back your power, that you have left them in the dust, and that you have moved on to bigger and better things. You are no longer tethered to their world, no longer bound by their manipulation, no longer subject to their whims. You are free, and in that freedom, you will rise higher than they ever thought possible. You will build a life that they can only dream of, a life where you are in control, where you call the shots, where you define your worth, where you define your future. You will find the happiness and success they tried to deny you, the peace they tried to rob from you, the strength they tried to break. And as you do, as you grow, as you achieve, they will sit in the ashes of their own broken ego, watching you from afar, unable to do anything to stop you. They will try to mimic your strength, try to replicate your success, but they will always fall short, because they don't have what you have. They don't have your fire, your resilience, your indomitable will. They don't have the strength to walk away, and that, in the end, is their greatest failure. They thought they could control you. They thought they could break you, but you walked away, and in doing so, you proved to them and to the world that no one can ever hold power over you. You are untouchable. You are unstoppable. And now, as you continue to rise, they will forever remain a footnote in the story of your life, a reminder of what happens when someone underestimates your strength. So continue with your head held high, with your heart full of defiance, knowing that the victory is yours. They couldn't imagine it. They couldn't see it coming. But now, they'll never forget it. You walked away, and in doing so, you shattered everything they thought they knew. You about power, about control, and about you. The one thing they failed to understand, the one thing that was beyond their grasp, is the fundamental truth that control is an illusion. It's something that can be wielded, sure, but it's never permanent, never truly solid. They thought they could control you, manipulate your choices, dictate the path you walked. But what they didn't realize was that control is a fragile thing. It's dependent on the submission of those you attempt to dominate. It's dependent on the belief of the controlled that they are powerless. And in your case, they were wrong. You were never powerless. You were always waiting for the moment to break free, waiting for the right time to reclaim your sovereignty, your will, your very life from their grasp. And now, as they stand there broken and defeated, watching you walk away with a quiet power that they could never hope to possess, they finally begin to understand the one thing they never saw coming. You were never under their thumb. You never needed them. You always had your own path to follow, your own strength to rely on, your own inner power that could never be shaken, no matter how hard they tried. And this is where their illusion of control falls apart, because the moment you decide you are free, the moment you recognize your own worth, that illusion shatters. The moment you walk away, free and unburdened, is the moment they realize that they have nothing left. Think about it for a second. They thought they had you in their hands, that your life revolved around their whims. They thought they could make you dance to their tune, shape your world, twist your choices. They believed, for a time, that they could create your reality, that their version of you was the only one that mattered. They couldn't see past their own small, egocentric world. But you were always something more, something beyond their limited perspective. Your strength, your will, your refusal to be molded or contained was never a part of their calculations. And when the moment arrived, when you broke free, when you finally turned your back, you were not just escaping them. You were crushing the very idea that they could ever control you. It's hard for them to face the truth. It's hard for anyone who has built their identity on controlling others to look into the mirror and admit that their power was nothing more than smoke and mirrors. It's a bitter pill to swallow, and no matter how they try to twist it, no matter how they try to convince themselves that they were never truly interested in you, that they didn't care, the truth remains inescapable. You walked away, and in that single moment, you tore down everything they thought they had built. You dismantled their carefully constructed world. You made them confront the cold reality that their sense of superiority, their belief in their ability to manipulate, was nothing more than a fleeting illusion. But this is where the real power lies, isn't it? In the ability to see beyond the illusion, to recognize the lies for what they are, to look through the masks people wear and see the truth behind them. They thought they could fool you, play you for a fool, make you believe that their games were your reality. But you saw through it. You always did. And that's the part they never understood. They never knew just how strong you were, how resilient, how capable of walking away when the time came. They underestimated you, assuming you would always be there, always be available for their manipulation, always be caught in their web of control. But you never were. You were never their victim. You were never the person they wanted you to be. You were always yourself, and when the time came, when the moment arrived, you knew exactly what you had to do. They will try to rewrite the story, of course. They will try to convince others that it was their choice, that they didn't need you, that it didn't matter. But it does matter. It matters deeply. It matters because the truth has already been written. The truth is in your actions. The truth is in the way you walked away, head held high, with no tears, no regrets, no backward glance. The truth is that you found the strength to sever the ties that bound you to them, the strength to walk away from everything they tried to impose upon you. And they know it. Deep down, they know it, even if they won't admit it. The control they thought they had was never real. It was only ever as strong as your willingness to stay. And the moment you left, it crumbled. Now, let's talk about that strength you have, that deep well of power inside you that they never saw coming. It's not something they could ever understand because they were too busy feeding their own egos, too busy building their false sense of control to notice that you were quietly preparing, quietly growing. They didn't see the quiet resilience, the quiet force that you carried within you. They didn't see the years of growth, the struggles, the lessons that shaped you into someone who could walk away. No matter how hard they tried to hold on, they never saw the battle within you, the way you fought to remain true to yourself, even when it seemed easier to conform, to submit, to give in. They didn't know that, deep down, you were always a survivor. You were always strong enough to handle whatever they threw your way, but you weren't foolish enough to believe you needed to stay and endure their cruelty forever. Now, they're left picking up the pieces. They're left trying to figure out how they lost, how they failed. They're left wondering what they did wrong, how they could have kept you in their grip, how they could have won. But the truth is they couldn't have won. They were never meant to. They were always playing a game they didn't fully understand, assuming that you were a mere pawn in their scheme. But you were never a pawn. You were always the queen, the one with the power to change the course of the game, to take control, to dictate your own destiny. And when you chose to walk away, you ended the game on your own terms. They had no say. They had no control. You won. There's something so liberating about that, isn't there? The realization that you never needed them, the realization that your life was never in their hands, that your future was never dependent on their approval. And now, as you look ahead, you see a world full of possibility, full of potential, full of freedom. You see opportunities opening up before you, doors that were once closed, now swinging wide open. And it's all because you had the courage to walk away. You had the strength to say no more, to refuse to be held back by someone else's need for control. You had the wisdom to see that in order to grow, in order to live your fullest life, you had to step away from the chains they tried to place on you. And while they stew in their defeat, trying to rebuild what little control they think they have left, you will be moving forward. You will be soaring. You will be creating a life that is entirely yours, a life built on your own terms. You will grow stronger, more resilient, more powerful, and they will continue to watch from the sidelines, helpless and broken, knowing they can never get back what they lost. They can try to control others, try to manipulate those around them, but they will never have the power over you again. You have seen the truth. You have broken free. And once you've broken free, there is no going back. So continue on your journey, unapologetically, powerfully, knowing that you are free. You are free from their control, free from their manipulations, free from their lies. You are free to live your life as you see fit, free to make your own choices, free to be the person you were always meant to be. And they are left behind in the ruins of their own making, forever wondering what went wrong, forever wondering how you slipped through their fingers, forever wondering how they could have been so blind. But the truth is, they never had control over you, not in the way they thought. You were always in charge of your own fate. And now, as you walk away, you take with you a strength they can never touch, a power they can never hope to control. And that is something they will never forget. In the end, they couldn't control you because you were never meant to be controlled. You broke free from their grasp, shattered their illusions, and walked away with a quiet strength they couldn't comprehend. And as you move forward, you take with you the undeniable truth. Your power, your freedom, and your future have always been in your hands. They may try to rebuild their illusions, but they will never regain the control they thought they had over you. You are free, unstoppable, and stronger than they could ever have imagined.